The Avengers is pretty much the only movie I was excited to watch again after rewatching the first Iron Man. While every movie so far except Thor has surprised me with how good it is, The Avengers has done the opposite. However, I also understand that this is an unpopular opinion and that The Avengers is a very well-liked movie. In light of this, rather than covering a broad range of things in some depth, I'm going to explain the core of the issues that I had with various aspects of the film, and hopefully this ultimately helps you understand where I'm coming from, rather than sounding like someone who's really edgy and just doesn't like Marvel. What I see in these movies beyond my own opinion is something to like. I see fun and entertaining superhero films with easy-to-like characters. However, action and entertainment isn't always enough to fully engage someone in a movie, and I happen to be one of those people. A lot of the counter-arguments to this revolve around the idea that, well, explosions are cool and this is filled with them. While I do agree that action events are fun to watch, they are fun to watch in short doses. There needs to be a reason for them to continue, which is something I struggle to see in this film. For a majority of movies, there is a threat involved. The reason the scene is taking place is because there is an evil dude or something along these lines attempting to do something bad, and the heroes are struggling against it. I know that Loki's army of Chitauri are a threat, and I will get to why I don't see them as threatening in a second. But since for me the threat is missing, there needs to be some other reason to be invested in the events of the film. Character investment would be another reason, but again I'll explain that in a second. Overall, I don't find investment in the simple action and entertainment aspect of the Avengers, and considering that this is a large part of the movie, it's a reason I find this to be a lackluster entry in the franchise. What the solo films up to this point in the franchise have done right is their characters. Although I overall didn't enjoy Thor very much, I appreciated to some extent his character arc. Captain America: The First Avenger and Iron Man's presentation of their main heroes was by far the best aspect of their respective films. They had arcs that changed their personalities, and it made the action interesting because it was mostly due to some involvement their character had with the villain, or perhaps where and when the battle was taking place. Now, if I liked characters so much in their solo movies, why don't I like them in this one? The reason is fairly straightforward. While they are interesting characters, there needs to be some level of development beyond they meet and don't like each other, and then they team up so they like each other. While yes, I have some investment in what happens to them from the movies I've seen so far, the film needs to give me a reason to care about their involvement in this specific film. Because I am already invested in the outcome, the characters themselves showing some level of interest in what happens would be enough to garner a low level of engagement in the plot. But this is where my next critique of the Avengers comes in, and it's the reason I was mentioning before. Character reactions to events throughout a film are important, and so are their reactions to interactions with other characters. What the Avengers has a habit of doing is delegitimizing tension in the story or their interactions with each other by making jokes. I understand that if your goal is to simply create a fun, entertaining action flick, that the easiest way to do this is to mix in some comedy. However, the feeling I get from the Avengers is that it wants me to be invested in what the characters feel about each other, and be worried that they won't get along as a team or even make it through the next battle. The constant quips and generic wittiness are enough on their own to cancel out my involvement in the story, but then they also have a habit of acting as if they're always on top of things. There's a sequence in the middle of the film where this doesn't happen, and I would say this is the best part of the movie, but essentially the fact that the characters say they're in trouble or that there is blood on them doesn't change the fact that so far, I haven't been shown anything to support this idea. It seemed to me, and I may be wrong in saying this, but there is very little time dedicated to showing the Avengers themselves struggling to overcome enemies around them. They all seem to take everything on with relative ease, and this makes it difficult to invest in their struggles. Towards the end of the final act, the team gets their shit together and they start to work together, and there's a really cool long take that shows all the characters interacting and helping each other out. This would be an even better moment if they didn't already seem to be handling things fine on their own. Hawkeye was perched on a roof just shooting aliens out of the sky, Iron Man was flying around joking to Jarvis about one thing or another, casually shooting down aliens, as is Thor. Hulk at this point hadn't arrived, and Captain America and Black Widow were on the ground taking the aliens on in hand-to-hand combat, and even learning to use their weapons on the fly. Although there is no teamwork in this part of the third act, the lack of teamwork doesn't have any tangible effect on how well the characters are able to handle themselves. And because of this, it's difficult to invest in their coming together as a team. The rest of the movie's aspects really aren't worth mentioning to me because they're essentially just really boring and mediocre, except for the music, which confuses me, because on the one hand, the theme is really catchy and I really like its usage in the movie, and on the other hand, the rest of the music is as boring as action music gets, and is always really quiet and adds nothing when it's used. Also, I do want to ask if anyone else thinks this shot looks like a death screen from a video game. It was really distracting to me when it showed up, and I really want to see if someone else noticed that. So yeah, that's my problem with Avengers, and although I sounded really overly negative, I understand that the film just wants to be fun action, so I just wanted to explain myself, and also say the rating doesn't really reflect the negativity, because you're probably expecting like a 1 or a 2 right now. I don't actually feel that negatively about the film's plot or characters, I am just explaining why I'm totally indifferent to them.
Avengers 1, 5 out of 10.